When we last paid attention to the tutorial, we were researching the medium aircraft permit. Hopefully the fact that there has been 7 episodes between that point and now has reinforced my earlier statement that you need to learn to let your airport run and to actually focus on maintaining it and ensuring that it functions efficiently rather than just trying to keep up with everything the tutorial tells you to do. If you'd been trying to do medium aircraft before all of that other work, you'd be finding yourself out of cash, you'd have all sorts of strange problems with your planes not taking off on time, you wouldn't have enough staff, and so on and so forth. Now that I've done a whole lot of maintenance, it's alright for me to actually go back to expanding. And you can see I've planned out an awful lot. I obviously don't have the cash for that right now, but I do have the cash to finally build my medium runway. As you can see, I've already put in the ramps and the taxiway. So I'm going to set this ramp to be exit only, and this one to be entry only, because what I've planned out here is a one-way system. There's going to be eventually a second runway that is the landing runway, and this one is the takeoff runway, much like I've done here for the small aircraft. I've got this one for landing, this one for taking off. That way there's less traffic jam for the planes themselves. If you watch this for a little while, you'll see that one lands at the same time as another takes off and so on, but I don't have any taking off right at the moment to show you. We do also have the money to build our first medium stand, and you can see I've accidentally built these 3 security posts already. I'll leave them as is. We need to build at least 1 of these medium check-in desks. I'm going to build 4, and I'm going to build these 3 boarding desks. Now you can see the exit for security is actually up here. It's not in the same place as your entry points. There's no reason to have them co-located. You can definitely separate them, there's no issue with that. What I've done is actually prepare or plan ahead so that this room will be for baggage collection after they deboard. So they'll come off their planes all along here, walk down through the terminal into baggage claim, and then out to the pickup point down here, which, as you can see, I have expanded quite dramatically. So I'm keeping this small section for small flights, and this larger section is for medium flights, and there will be a much bigger portion over here with subways and whatnot for large flights later. And it's quite possible that what I've planned out here is going to exceed the number of medium flights that I get offered, but we'll discover that as we go. So this needs to be connected to the runway, it needs a boarding desk to be connected, and it needs the security check-in to be connected properly. So if I select each of these boarding desks and assign them to, remember you can shift to select multiple, assign them to that stand, that checks off one of those factors. And now that that has been assigned, it's figured out that these are the security gates for that boarding desk, because it works out through which security zone you're looking at. Yes, the runway needs to be opened, and that should satisfy that. Excellent. We have our check-in desks built, and we will definitely need more staff. As you can see, I've got 16 out of 16 security officers in use right now. That means there's no time for them to rest, go to the toilet, etc. So we definitely need more. I've already gone ahead and done my trick of filtering out the low quality people. I've only got high quality people available to me right now, and I want to hire every security officer that I can find. And I'm looking at the wrong screen, but you get the idea. Security officer. Hire, 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 hire. I will also need more passenger service agents. And I'm going to grab some more administrators while I'm here. And definitely ramp agents will be required. Janitors, possibly, possibly not. Service agents, service technicians. I'll get a few, but I probably don't need the full complement right now. If you keep a close eye on staff utilization, you'll find service technicians and janitors often have 0 jobs available. That's quite different from security officers and passenger service agents who are almost in constant use. Same with ramp agents. Now, I did mention administrators. We have 2 projects we could be doing right now. I'm going to go with fuel tanks and fuel trailer trucks. Let's get our admins assigned to that. Good. All right. Now, if we go back to our tutorial, we also need to buy a stair truck. Now, in the interest of not forgetting what I'm doing later, I'm going to buy a few more than just the one that's required right now. Purchase. Nope. I will probably also need a pushback truck, but it hasn't told me to get one of those yet. Where is stair truck? It must be transit. Yep, okay. So I'm going to order 6 for now. And I'm going to keep a close eye on when they arrive. Note that I have switched off auto assignment. We don't actually have terminal areas set up yet. I don't think I have the research done for that. But the practice remains the same. Keep an eye out for when your new vehicles arrive and try to assign them to a particular depot straight away. So this one is going to be assigned to that stand, and this one for now is going to be assigned to this depot. Same with this one, assigned to the depot. Wait for the next to come on screen. There he is. Obviously this is a lot easier when it's not nighttime and you can see what you're doing. That's another one there. There. Is that all 6? I think it is. So if I let them go now, one will be assigned to this stand permanently and it will only service that stand. The others will end up in this depot for later deployment when I build the remainder of these stands. I will eventually need more than 6, but 6 will do for the moment. Now, back to our tutorial. We also need to hire a procurement director. In theory, you would have been better off doing that before, because if we go to executives, if we look at our executive committee, the procurement director reduces the cost of purchasing vehicles. So ideally, you would have hired that person before buying those vehicles, but the tutorial does it in reverse order. So we want executives, we want to be hiring, we want a procurement director. You are the highest skilled one, you will do. Now it tells us to buy a pushback truck. Why that wasn't part of the same statement before, who knows? And I'll do the same thing, I'll order 6 of them, and as they come in, I will assign them to the stand or that depot. Now I'm curious to know, no, you can't drag to select. You may be able to multi-select. Yes. And I missed one. Now I should point out, the way they're getting to that is actually via an underground tunnel. I've built a tunnel and a second service entry here. They go down, they drive along and come back around up here to get into the depot. Without being able to build on multiple floors, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have to have roads going between sections of terminal. It would get quite spaghetti-like. Now if I look in here, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stair traps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pushback trucks. Excellent. Now having built, this is where things get a little strange again. Having built our first aircraft stand, it hasn't given us any indication that we should set up flights for it. You're just assumed to realize. It actually now wants to move on to the next portion of the tutorial, which I'll keep for the next video. But before we do move on, we need to be aware that we now have a different stand showing up here. If the stand wasn't enabled yet for some reason, if I say switched it off, that would disappear. So I'll switch that back on. I will rename it. And this is going to be Gate B. So this is B1. And now if we start looking at our flights, you'll see these are small flights. We have these toggles up here to say which types of flights we're looking for. So if I switch off that, you'll see there's no medium flights available. And that's likely to be the case for all of my no, we do have one. Okay. I was about to say it's likely to be the case for all of our vendors because we've only just built that stand and they haven't had time to offer us any flights yet. But it would appear I was mistaken. Now you may notice, by the way, that I do now have a 60-minute gap between flights. I accidentally left the game running for a few days without remembering to update the planner, so I ended up with essentially a blank day and just repopulated it. I wouldn't recommend doing that because it cost me quite a bit of money not having flights on those days, but these things happen. Now, unfortunately, these filter toggles do not change the number of offered flights shown in this panel. So the only way to actually find them is to flip through each of your contracts looking for available flights. Doesn't look like there's any left. That's fine. Now what I might do is just demonstrate that that is functioning, because this is a test you should definitely do in your own airports. When you build your first medium stand, put one flight on it and watch it like a hawk until that flight takes off, because it's very easy to miss something, particularly if you've already engaged baggage handling or catering service or any of the other features that your airport can have. The more services you have, the more things there are which can accidentally hold up your chances of managing that flight successfully. By the way, I'm hoping that having three medium boarding desks is going to be sufficient to get these planes boarded on time. Under the ordinary game settings it would be, but with 100% passengers, I've been finding it's quite common for me to be delayed, so yeah, we'll just have to play it and see. Here comes our first plane. Let's make sure all the people get off. Okay, this is a perfect example. The stair truck has not engaged. This plane is small enough that it has its own stairs built in. So the door folds down and has stairs built into it. People walk off that. So the stair truck was not strictly required for this flight. if you were really patient, you could organize things in such a way that you only pick, I'm trying to point with my finger here because I can't point with the mouse. This is a CRJ 700 flight, meaning it's that particular model of plane. If you knew your planes well enough, you could know, alright, I don't need a stair truck, I can book all of these flights and let them deboard and board and it won't be an issue. But if it were a larger form of medium plane, you wouldn't get away with that. Okay, you can see our ramp agents here are doing their service round, and they're done. Refueling. Okay, so the truck is coming along. This is one of our Maverick Jet A1 trucks, and it's just about empty. So this could get quite interesting. Okay, it looked like it only used about 2%. That's quite fortunate. Later on, when larger flights come through, you will find these small Maverick trucks just aren't big enough to handle filling up large planes. And that, funnily enough, is why I said I would research fuel trucks. Fuel trucks hold more, but they're slow. After I get this one, I can do Maverick trucks. Alright, and our passengers are boarding. Pushback is in progress. You can see that pushback truck was used on this occasion. I think medium flights always require that. Small flights do not, and large flights do need it, but they need a different type of pushback truck. Okay, our first medium flight was successful. Everyone's got off, everyone's got on time. The flight is taken off, there were no holdups. Excellent. Like I said earlier, it's always wise to monitor that first flight and make sure it works perfectly. And just a quick reminder, you do need to be repairing your infrastructure. So now that we have medium flights in progress and we know they're working, we can assign more flights, because by now we should actually have more flights available. And if we don't, which we may not, here we go, here's one. There is another thing to be aware of. Here's one. And right, that'll do for the moment. If I go back into here and look at economy, we now that we have medium stands built, we now actually have a whole raft of new airline contracts available. So I'm going to take Swiftly by itself for the moment because I only have one stand. I've just about filled up that stand as it is. When I have more stands functioning, I can take more contracts and keep them satisfied. So if I look at Swiftly, yeah, nothing's been offered yet, that's just fine. By the way, one point I've forgotten to mention, the percentage rating affects the number of possible flights they will give you. Right now, Swiftly, which we've only just got, has a satisfaction rating of 25%, so the maximum number of active flights they'll offer us is 30. Once we get them up to 100%, they will quite happily give us 50 flights. I've been trying to keep on track with the tutorial very closely so that when you're playing along, you don't have to remember what I've said so much, you just follow the tutorial with the extra knowledge. However, there is one little thing that's taking up far too much of my time that I'm going to jump ahead on. So the auto planner in your flight planner cannot be used until you have both a Chief Operations Officer and a Chief Information Officer. Now, we would be hiring one of those two fairly soon, and the other I don't think even comes up in the tutorial anyway. So I'm going to hire both of them now. There we go. Flick back to our flight planner and switch on auto planner. As soon as I did that, every gate went to auto planner active mode. You can actually switch it off for an individual gate if you have a reason to do so. For example, you might want to have a particular gate reserved for handling emergency flights. In that case, it would be very sensible to have auto management switched off for that stand. At the moment, however, I'm quite happy to let it just fill in everything. I'm going to set my minimum flight separation back to an hour like I wanted it to be, and I no longer have to come in here and spend lots and lots of time filling in all of these random gaps. Be aware that when it is set to auto planner, you cannot manually place them. If you really want to set one manually, you can switch that off, close that view, and then place the flight, confirm it, and then switch it back on.